Let's just put this thing right here. That's probably good enough, right? All right, so I have had a question in the back of my mind for at least 3 years now, I think. So in elementary school, we are taught that one of the reasons why Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492 was to prove that the Earth was round. Now, we all heard this in elementary school, and the crazy thing is that it's completely false. What?
They had learned how to build houses and large sailing ships, but they still didn't know much about the rest of the world. In fact, most of them believed the Earth was flat.
Go on, Google it yourself. Did Christopher Columbus discover that the Earth was round? And you will find out that no, of course he didn't. Humans have known that the Earth was round since the 6th century BC. The Greek philosopher Pythagoras was the first one to mention it. You might recognize his name from that one math theorem everyone knows. And by the 3rd century BC, there were Greek astronomers that had proven that the Earth was round. They had even come up with the rough estimate of the circumference of the Earth. By 1492, everyone knew that the Earth was round. So if humans knew by 1492 that the Earth was round, then where did this Columbus proving that the Earth was round myth even come from? Well, it came from a little known American author named Washington Irving. Yeah, that guy, the Sleepy Hollow guy.
It's the new schoolmaster, what's his name?
Ichabod Crane.
In his book, A History of the Life and Voyages of Christopher Columbus, Irving wrote that Columbus wanted to prove that the Earth was round.
I think the world isn't flat at all. I think it's round like a ball.
Did you hear what he said? Did you hear what he said?
Apparently there was a group of professors, friars, and other dignitaries of the church who said that, is there anyone so foolish as to believe that there are antipodes with their feet opposite to ours? People who walk with their heels upward and their heads hanging down? The idea of the roundness of the earth was the cause of inventing this fable of the antipodes with their heels in the air. These church officials are pretty much saying, if anyone believes that the earth is round and that there are people on the opposite side of the earth, that they are a fool. The only problem is that no clergy member actually thought this way in Europe at the time, because every educated person in Europe happened to be a clergy member, and they knew that the earth was round. Now, this was probably just an attempt at fostering some form of American nationalism. Oh wow, not only did Columbus discover America, but he also discovered that the earth was actually round. Wow! So why were we taught in elementary school that Columbus set out to prove that the earth was round, even though it had been a proven fact for almost 2,000 years?
I think the world isn't flat at all. I think it's round like a ball.
In order to solve this question, I read, well, children's books. In the children's books I read, they mentioned that the people did know that the earth was round. However, they say it as if it wasn't the dominant idea of the day, even though it was the dominant idea. In this book, Columbus the Triumphant Failure, I'm sorry, it's just a funny title. The author writes that, like all seamen and most educated people in those days, Columbus did not think the world was flat. I'm probably nitpicking here, but doesn't it sound like the author is putting Columbus on a pedestal as if he's one of the few people who actually know that the earth was round? Like, it was just sailors and most educated people? No, everyone that had anything related to an education knew that the earth was round at that point.
The world is flat as the brim of your hat, and that is very plain.
Here's another one. Christopher Columbus, The Life of a Master Navigator and Explorer. In this book, there's a little blurb that goes, at that time, most educated Europeans thought the earth was round, yet because no one had ever sailed around the earth, they had no real proof. Now, I'm probably nitpicking again, but there was proof. There was proof that the earth was round by that point. I mean, the ancient Greek astronomers Aristarchus and Eratosthenes, they measured the size of the earth. Eratosthenes in around 200 BC was the one who measured the shadows in 2 different cities to determine the earth's circumference. As you can see, by this point in the 15th century, there was real concrete proof that the earth was round. These books make it seem like Columbus was ahead of his time. It's like, no, this was common knowledge for almost 2,000 years.
I know that I'm right, oh I know that I'm right when I say that the world is round.
The only book that I read that actually had some truth to the matter was a 1985 book called Columbus and the Age of Exploration. In this book, the author states, most men in Columbus's day knew that the world was round, but they believed it to be much smaller than it is. Now this is actually somewhat true. There are reports that people thought Japan was much closer to Europe, maybe around a weeks-long trip. The only reason why they thought this was because they had no clue that North and South America even existed. By this time, they were just going off of Marco Polo's writings from when he went from Venice all the way to China in the 1200s.
My thinking is sound and I'll prove the world's round. It won't take very long.
So, that's it. Unfortunately, I couldn't find exactly why we were taught this in elementary school, but at least we now know where the idea came from, all from this guy.
Ichabod Crane.
If you're ever wondering how I got all the books that I used in this video, there's a phenomenal service called archive.org. On this website, there are a bunch of free PDFs of many different books. It's similar to a library system where you can borrow a book for, I think it's up to an hour or 14 days, and then once that time limit is up, you can just re-borrow the book. I love this service so much, and I use it all the time for college. I highly recommend it. Well, I hope you have a terrific day, and I hope you learned something. I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye!